Sophie Okonedo has a recurring role in Ratched as Charlotte Wells, a woman with dissociative identity disorder. I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with Sophie. And I'd like to start with just what you knew about the character and all of her different personalities and what that initial discussion was with Ryan Murphy. I assume Ryan Murphy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I only met Ryan once, and it was quite a short initial discussion. I met him because he didn't direct the episodes I was in. Unfortunately, I didn't get to really sort of hang out with him at all. But I had really good directors, so I was pretty happy. But I met him when I was a few months before it started. I got a call from my agent just to go and meet him, and he was super nice and just said, I've got this part that will come in around about the fifth episode, and she'll probably stay for a couple of episodes, and I think it would be very suited to your acting, and she's going to have lots of different personalities, and she's a patient at the hospital, and that's kind of really all I knew. And then I got the scripts, and I was like, brilliant. Bring
Yeah.
it on. I mean, I just got episode 5, and I was like, even if nothing else happens, it's so impactful and full on what I had to do in that episode that it was just like a joyous kind of joyous sort of piece to come to work to. I love that sort of, it's quite difficult and it's quite juicy, and I had so many different kind of ways I could go with it, and I just and I was, right up until they said action, I had no idea how I was going to do it. So I was kind of really excited. I find that quite exciting. I like the sort of challenge of it all. So.
Yeah, certainly. Well, when you're playing someone, with a mental disorder, there has to be a level of care to your approach. And I'm wondering what, if any, kind of research you put into the part.
Well, I mean, this is maybe going against everything that you're supposed to do, or against what's the right thing to do. But I didn't really think about her having, I didn't really think about her in that way. I just I approached it in a way that she had many different personalities, which she fully felt she was each time she was, she couldn't remember from one to the next. So I just basically just charted out. I think at the beginning I had 4 or 5 characters, and then a couple more came later on. But each character I just gave it a complete full life, like I would if that was the only character I was playing. So, Ondine had as fuller kind of background and story to me as Charlotte did, as did Baby Taffy. All of them had these kind of really fulsome lives, and then I just played each one just for real. And then the kind of, I suppose the challenge was to make the switch very fast and to be into the next character. So I wasn't thinking about because so much of it, she couldn't remember anything, so it was no point. It was easier to look at her mental disorders from the outside, but as from the inside, it was more helpful just to play each character as truly as possible, and not worry about how they joined. I leave that to the audience.
Right. Well, did you have kind of a favorite personality within those first 3 that we meet, and then also later with Dr. Hanover, that personality?
I don't know. I really like them all, and just when like you'd be doing one and then another, another one would come along, and I like them all. I mean, each of them has their kind of. Each one, she could express another side of herself. Another, she could express her anger or her love or her bravado. Each one had a different. She could shine out a different sort of part of herself, and that was incredibly invigorating to do as an actor. That was really, I loved that.
Yeah. And I think you sort of mentioned this earlier, but it's not just the voices that are important to sort of distinguish, but it's also the transitions between the personalities and making that all seamless. Can you recall the specifics of, like how you played those transitions when Charlotte is shifting into a new personality?
If I'm really honest with you, I'll be honest, I really can't remember much after I've done a scene. Because I sort of just go blank, and I just can't. And that's why I'm terrible at doing. They say, "Can we do that again?" Like that. I have no idea what I did that time. So it's kind of, I'm always better with directors to let me be a bit looser, about doing different things each take, because I just will always just try and do something that presently occurs to me that moment, and won't really. I mean, I worked with Liz Hemmelstein, you know, on the dialects, but I didn't really set how I was going to do anything until I got there. I mean, I just played it each time differently, because you just don't know what the other actor's going to do. You don't know what the set's going to be. You have no idea what you're going to. There's no point for me plotting things out too much, because it's kind of quite restrictive. I do quite a lot of work, and I always know my lines inside out, and I do a lot of kind of sort of preparing. But when I get there, I just throw all my preparation away, really, and just see what happens. See, you just don't know how they're going to film it, so it's just better to stay loose and free and kind of open, and it's just more fun that way. It feels scary at first, but actually, I find I do a better job when I'm like that.
Yeah, I imagine it's liberating in a way.
Yeah.
But you make such a big impression in that first scene with John Briones, where Charlotte is cycling through all of her personalities. And I mean, I imagine it's a bit daunting to prepare for a scene like that. And I was curious, just again, once you got on set, if there was something specific that surprised you, or if anything changed in
Oh yeah,
how you
yeah.
would play it.
I know exactly what surprised me. First off, I just thought that his office, like Dr. Hanover's office, was going to be, I'd imagine it like a psychiatrist's kind of office, like a little office with a kind of table and a little bed. And when I got there, it was this huge room. And I was like, oh, right, that's why it's good not to, pre-think it too much. I hadn't thought that was going to be the case. But then I thought, wow, I've got this. And then Michael, the director, said, there's going to be lots of cameras and we can do long takes. And I was like, but I love to do that, just as much of the scene as possible. And so he said, you can go anywhere you want. And then I just gave me great freedom to that was a real surprise. I had to say, when I did that scene, you got really only as good as the person opposite you. And John is just such a brilliant actor and so generous that he just let me just, bounce off the walls and he would just catch me. So I had that type of actor with me. So that allows me to sort of do my best work as well. I mean, it really is. That was down to John. So I was very lucky there.
Yeah. Well, you get to bounce off of a lot of great cast members on this show.
Oh,
Obviously, Sarah Paulson, Judy Davis, John, like you said, Amanda Plummer, Finn Whitrock. I mean, do you have a favorite dynamic with one of those castmates that you particularly enjoyed playing with?
Oh, well, I mean, John obviously is the person I spent the most time with. So I feel very close to him. And then Sarah, I probably had the most laughs with, because she is someone that we likes to have a lot of laughs, and we by the end of it we could barely look at each other because we used to make each other laugh so much. So that was, and then I really had a great that car at the end scene with Finn and Amanda Plummer was, I mean, what's not to love about just driving off in that kind of open top car with those two? I mean, the three craziest characters in the world driving off into the sunset. So that was
Yes.
that was a really, we had a really good time doing that, because we came back and did that right at the end, and that was I didn't know I was going to be in that episode. I thought I was only going to be in a couple of episodes, so I kept coming back and sort of coming back to England, and then they said come back again, so I'd go back and film a bit more, and that was really fun.
Yeah,
especially when I ended up being Dr. Hanover. Like, I didn't know that was going to happen when I signed on. I had absolutely no idea that was going to happen. I just got a script and I thought, oh, why we're going to do that next week.
Yeah, I mean, did you study John at all for that?
Yeah, I did a little bit, but I just thought it's just Charlotte doing John, so I'm not going to have to be too perfect. I don't have to worry. And I remember saying to Ryan, oh, should I wear come back in a suit? Because he always had those pinstripe suits, and he went, absolutely no, you just must do it all with your acting. No, you must wear exactly the same clothes as Charlotte. No suits. No, you're not going to have any props, to help you out. Yeah. So, but actually, I think in the end, that was definitely the best way to go.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Where to go, she had picked up a suit and all that stuff. But,
yeah. This is a show that takes place at a very specific time in America in the 40s, which has a certain look. It has a certain vibe. The clothing is very distinct, especially the women's clothing and the hairstyles. There's just a refinement to it almost. I was wondering if that aesthetic and the visuals sort of helped to guide you in terms of placing yourself as a woman in this time period.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't realize. I knew the costumes and the sets were amazing, but I didn't realize how kind of powerful that would be to like. I don't personally just watch myself, so I watched just the first 4 episodes before I come in, and I was really just amazed by the way it looked. The way it looked was so gorgeous, and I hadn't realized how everybody had obviously just worked so closely together because everything kind of guided you to the next. Everything was kind of interlinked, from the costumes to the sets to the color. Everything was interlinked, and actually somehow the style of acting that we were doing, I suppose there was a style to it. It has a kind of sort of drama and a kind of largeness to it because it's written like that. It's written quite stylized. If you were to go too naturalistic, it probably wouldn't work. It's kind of that. It's very sort of out there sort of piece. And it just all went together. And I didn't kind of question. The costumes were so amazing. I just like, whatever you want to put on me, I'm happy. The wigs, they had it sorted. I didn't really get too involved. I just, stick it on, and it was great.
Yeah, I think this is a show that isn't necessarily setting out to directly send some kind of a moral message, but I think it does also illustrate just the difficulties of living life as someone who is stigmatized or someone in a minority group, especially again at that time in the 40s where people just didn't even know how to properly treat mental illness or anything. I was curious if there was something in the material of Ratched, along those lines, or something else that you were moved by, or anything thematically that just stuck out to you
Yeah, I
about the
definitely
writing.
was. I think exactly as you just said, I was especially when I watched it back, those first 4 episodes. I think I was quite moved by that. I mean, first and foremost, I felt like this is a very entertaining piece. It's like entertainment as well, but
Right.
obviously it's great if there's messages and layers. That always makes things more interesting. But yeah, I definitely felt all the things you said.
Yeah. Well, I know you haven't started filming season 2 yet, but I talked to Cynthia Nixon, and she was talking about how she was looking forward to just the possibilities of these two triads of you and Finn Wittrock and Amanda Plummer, and then her and Sarah Paulson and Judy Davis just going up against each other. Are you looking forward to anything specifically with your character and the show as we head into season 2?
Oh, well, I have no idea what's going to happen, so I just stay kind of pretty neutral about that. But all I know is that whatever happens, it won't be boring.
There you go. It never is on a Ryan Murphy show. But actually, speaking to that, Ryan Murphy has obviously made such a name for himself in terms of centering women and centering marginalized communities in his shows. I assume you had some kind of thought in your mind about Ryan as a creator before you signed on, but now having worked on a Ryan Murphy production, how did that kind of meet your expectations?
I think I didn't have so many expectations, to be honest with you. I don't.
Hmm.
It's so hard to think back. I don't think I did. I was just absorbed in Charlotte. I mean, that really was my focus. I don't really have those big surrounding thoughts about projects. I just like, I got a part, I love it, and I just invest everything into that. So I wasn't really I don't really think about the long term or the ramifications. I'm just very much a kind of what's happening today person. And I think with one thing I did feel actually was that because a lot of people had worked together before, particularly people like on production had worked together before, and a lot of the actors, there was a very sort of family atmosphere. People were kind of more relaxed than you would get on a normal set. I mean, people were, because they really knew what they were doing. They'd all worked together for many years, and there was a kind of quite a very good vibe. I felt, not quite that kind of, oh my god, we got, like you often get on film sets. It was really nice to be there. I was just so, I've never filmed anything in LA before, and I even got to go in one of those buggies, on the way on the way to set, and I was at Fox Studios, and you could see all, pictures of Marilyn Monroe there, and pictures of so who had filmed here, and all the kind of famous people that filmed on the Fox lot. To me, that was just amazing, to sort of to see all that. That was just like a sort of living in a dream. So I was just so happy to be there. I mean, I had the same experience when I first did a show on Broadway. I was just like, oh my God, I'm on Broadway. Just like walking to this, I used to get such a buzz just from walking to the theatre every day and going to stage door that I actually was just walking to be in a show that I'm in on Broadway. So these things, I never get tired of it. I never take it for granted. I'm always really amazed when these things happen in my life. Yeah.
Like you turned into a little kid.
Yeah, I am eternally.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, since we're an awards website, I did want to flash back to your Oscar nomination back in the day in 2005 for Hotel Rwanda. Could you bring us back to that night, what that was like for you, and then also how much you think that nomination sort of affected your career moving forward?
Yeah, I think it happened sort of that night. It was quite a sort of whirlwind, partly because I'd been around for a long time before I got that nomination, but I'd been doing theatre mostly for like 12 years.
Right.
And so that was like maybe my second movie I'd done. So that I had done. So it was quite a shock that I got a nomination. I will say that. And then everything that came after that, around that sort of awards time, was completely something that I'd never experienced in my life. And it was, I was quite glad I had my mum and dad, and my daughter came out for quite a lot of it, and they remember every moment and still live the stories through, you know. So I've got kind of, because I think I just wouldn't remember anything because I was so kind of nervous the whole time. And I think afterwards things did shift, but kind of it's not like you think, well, it's just suddenly, well, it might be for some people, but it certainly wasn't for me at that time, partly because I had a young child in at home, and I just wasn't going to jump on a plane and leave her. So there was that. And so I stayed at home as a stay-at-home mum most of the time, and just took jobs that were nearby. And partly because at that time it was much harder for a Black woman to get parts in movies. You know, just there wasn't loads, and the things I was offered straight afterwards, I just thought, I think I'd rather just go and carry on in the theatre, because the parts were more interesting. They just weren't so interesting, the parts. They were kind of okay, the best friend of someone, or the best friend of, nothing really kind of juicy and kind of to get my teeth into. So I sort of I didn't really take the opportunities and stayed in England really, and then just worked my way through the theatre, and then ended up back in Broadway, and then more stuff happened, you know, back in America. So but I mean, the Oscars, once you get nominated on Oscar, it's such a kind of honor, and it's always with you, you know. No one can, it's always there, and it's always like it's kind of amazing that it happened, I think.
Yeah, you're always going to be Academy Award nominee, Sophie Okonedo.
And I rather like it.
Yeah, so it's a good honorific there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for those of you watching, subscribe for more interviews and head to goldderby.com to make your Emmy predictions. Sophie, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you very much.